the alpaca redux with the legless rope climbs, as we saw for some people, ended up being just a huge crux in terms of if you hit failure on that, you're screwed. I mean, the pig chipper was just tough in general. The inverted medley had a lot of high execution elements. The ski bag, you had to go for it. And as we've gotten the feedback from a lot of athletes on the ride event for the bike stuff, you have to be aggressive early and be in that lead pack, because after that it becomes very difficult to make up ground.
I think what else I really like to see with Boz's program this year is the evolution of the sport at the CrossFit Games. You saw a lot of commotion on how people were upset that there wasn't a lot of barbell, but it was really cool to see him test strength in a totally different way. And I think you can have the same conversation about the way that he tested gymnastics. It wasn't just toes to bar and chest to bar, and it was like using the P bars and even like the sled pull from the ground and seated rope climbs and all of those things that I think are a progression in the sport, especially once you get to the CrossFit Games, that I think caught some athletes off guard. And you can see it through the leaderboard.
I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. The analogy that I'll use is with, a test like the Capitol in his first year of programming. Boz pulled the driver out on the first tee box and just cranked one and split to, the trees. And then instead of kind of going back to the well with that and trying to, hit a bigger and badder drive and go into the driving range, he decided to work on his short game. He went to the putting green and he went to the chipping station, and he worked on the little things that are core fundamentals of the game of programming that I think will overall make the entire experience a little bit better. Because anyone who plays golf, you can hit that bomb off the drive, and if you feel great, but then you can just kind of, you can chunk your next two shots, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you got a snowman on it.
Breaking the Nike 7 iron out,
kicking
that thing back onto the fairway.
The old foot wedge, too. But it's like, are you going to go back to the flashy thing? Which kudos to Boz for taking that swing for something that big. But hey, let's make sure top to bottom, like the core elements, of the sport are taken care of here, even if they're tested in an unfamiliar way.
And I like the fact that I think he's done a pretty good job of pushing things forward without, making things ultra gimmicky. I understand like the crossovers. Yeah. I get why people look at that and go, I don't know. But everything else that I think's been done, wall-facing handstand push-ups, the parallel bars, seated legless rope climbs, like you said, Lauren, I think all that stuff is like a good way to push it into the next phase and elevate athlete performance and challenge athletes without getting into the stuff that you see in like, you would see in the grid where they're doing backflips and, where now it's stupid human tricks. So I think he's done a good job of walking the line.
Well, and I was worried because of last year's the crossover double under, because of that workout. I was like, if this is what we're seeing this year, what is going to be like the evolution of that the following year? But truthfully, from all of the programming he did, I don't think there was anything gimmicky or a test that wasn't relevant for the games.
Yeah, and in his defense, I don't know if you were going to say this or not, the crossovers were saved to the very end of the test for 10 people?
Oh, for sure.
So it wasn't like everybody had to do them.
Yeah. It was an opportunity to showcase an elevated skill. But I think, and I'm excited to talk to him on Thursday about this, but he did a really good job of, I think, elevating the classic CrossFit pieces, right? So you have the single modality, stuff, but instead of just going for a run, it's the cross country 4.5K, or you do the bike ride with you have to dismount and carry, and you do a mass start, you do the Olympic total, but we're going to give you a fewer attempts and crank the intensity up a little bit. Or we're going to find ways to elevate classic couplets and triplets in a way that makes them unique. The muscle up logs, for example, that's a basic CrossFit couplet. Muscle ups and basically pick up something heavy, but we're going to elevate it by changing the heights that you have to lift it and the weight of the bags that you have to move them and the distance. So little nuances like that, or the echo thruster finale, the thrusters with the barbell and the echo bike, classic CrossFit rep scheme. But when you finish that last one with that heavier barbell as the weight goes up, well, let's just take it for a walk.
Yeah.
And then in some instances, he primarily kind of left it alone with Helena. Similar rep scheme. Obviously, movements were adjusted slightly to fit the needs of the games athletes, but the core was still intact with that. I felt like.
I thought Helena, by the way, was that was my favorite event. I think of the weekend. I loved it.
It was my favorite to watch.
It was awesome. Like the way they had that drone following them in and out of the building. It looked so cool. Yeah, that was one when we were read in on it. It was a little different than when they originally, the way it ended up. But I'm glad they made the switches that they did because that was fun. That was a really cool test. We're going to skip number 4.